In this video, I'm going to be redesigning an apartment for subscribers Axel and Lila, who have a small studio in Budapest, the capital of Hungary and its largest city. Budapest is considered as one of the most beautiful cities in the world, but with a higher cost of living than other cities, my challenge was to see if there was any way to make this small studio apartment more efficient and as beautiful to be in as the city that surrounds it. So in this video, I'm going to show you how I used SketchUp, V-Ray and Photoshop to reconfigure it into this incredibly versatile yet minimal studio apartment. Upon entering Axel and Lila's apartment, you'll see that it consists of a small hallway with storage as well as a separate kitchen and bathroom, but the main living area is going to be the focus of this concept. As a freelance graphic designer and remote admin worker, Axel and Lila have a joint goal of spending more time outside of work, and it's clear to see from Axel's workspace that he's quite into gaming and music, whilst Lila has recently switched careers from a pastry chef so that she can now work remotely, with both of them having a shared interest in minimalism and Buddhism. Simple living and flexibility is a big part of their lives, so I imagine that keeping costs low is a big part of maximizing the time that they can spend outside of work. But the problem they're encountering in their apartment is that natural daylight isn't reaching Lila's new workspace, as the main room only has one window, and the fact that this room still needs to do everything else at the same time doesn't really help things. I started out by modelling the space in SketchUp with the measurements that Axel provided, by extruding the walls and adding in the room's skirting, door, window, radiator and air conditioning unit. Before they met, the apartment was originally Lila's, and much of the existing furniture hasn't really been changed since, with most of it consisting of affordable IKEA items such as a set of marm drawers, a calyx storage divider, a sofa and a pair of desks, as well as a bed that was made up from recycled pallets, all of which I managed to pull together using existing models from SketchUp's 3D warehouse. Modelling the room gave me a good sense of how it currently feels, and it helped me to photo match the model to the photographs, which is not only useful for creating accurate before and after images later, but it also helps me consider what I could do by simply rearranging what they already have. Although the current layout uses the IKEA calyx shelving as a handy room divider, it does completely block the light to Lila's half of the room, and I find that shelving is often just a magnet for clutter, which doesn't really do a minimally styled apartment any favours. To see if there's a way to keep the shelving, I'm inclined to move all of the storage to the far wall away from the window, as head height furniture in the middle of a room often makes a space feel much smaller than it actually is. However, this doesn't really work behind a bed, and the marm drawers are too deep to fit behind the door, which made it difficult to arrange them in a way that makes the best use of the space that they already have. Also, the pallet bed takes up a lot of space, and I think that it's costing the apartment more than it saves by taking up valuable space when it's not in use, as it can't be easily moved or hidden. Because of this, I decided that I create an aspirational design that switches all of this furniture out, rather than forcing the layout to accept all of this existing furniture, which can then leave Axel and Lila with the decision of what's really worth keeping. In well-designed small spaces, you often find that they're filled with custom bespoke cabinetry, as off-the-shelf products typically just don't fit. This is problematic, as hiring a carpenter can be expensive, but an overlooked option is simply using kitchen carcassing as a means of creating furniture that has an enormous array of configurations to choose from, with the added benefit of being easy to assemble at home. The 450mm space behind the door meant that I could comfortably fit 400mm kitchen cabinets along the entirety of the wall's length, almost completely disguising storage even being there, as it appears as one continuous surface. Although 400mm isn't deep enough for hanging rails, these cabinets are the perfect solution for storing cleaning and laundry items, as well as Axel's guitar, and because it's kitchen cabinetry, you could even configure it with drawers for clothing or for office supplies, and IKEA actually make this really easy with their online kitchen planner. The next thing that I wanted to tackle was a way to hide the room's aircon unit, as they aren't particularly the prettiest things to look at. I imagine that the kitchen cabinetry could be modified in a way to hide the unit, or better still, bespoke button-fixed screens could be fabricated to allow the air to freely pass through, whilst effectively camouflaging the unit, something that I imagine could be easily put up by a capable tradesperson or DIYer. Alongside, a tall 600mm deep cabinet would provide a sense of enclosure for Axel's work area without being too intrusive to the rest of the room. And because this is deeper than the cabinetry along the storage wall, it has a suitable depth for a hanging rail or even concealed computer equipment, whilst creating a 600mm deep nook for Axel's desk right next to the apartment's data outlet. When it comes to sleeping in the same space that you use for work, having a way for it to transition from bedroom mode to living or work mode is crucial. So I chose to put in a daybed, as this can be left out or just hidden away when guests are over, which is useful as it gives you the flexibility to affordably create more space in the apartment when it's not in use. Daybeds also have the added benefit of providing additional seating, and when placed on felt furniture pads, they can be easily slid around on the laminate floor so that the lower cabinets remain accessible. Of course, much like a pallet bed, a daybed isn't for everyone. However, it is a lot cheaper and more functional than other solutions. But if the budget allows, a Murphy bed could also be neatly installed into the cabinetry instead, which would make for an even more streamlined solution that's completely hidden from plain sight. In their email, Axel mentioned that he'd also been looking into getting a standing desk for a while for health reasons. So for his workspace, I chose to pair a 1400mm wide kitchen countertop with a motorized standing desk frame, which fits seamlessly into the small nook created by the tall kitchen cabinet next to it. I then placed a two-seater sofa from IKEA opposite the desk so that it can enjoy the natural light from the window, and because this one has legs, it also helps the room feel more spacious than the previous one due to the fact that you can see the floor continue beneath it. Lastly, for Leela's desk, instead of going for the same configuration as Axel's, I figured that it could be placed on casters so that she has the freedom to move it around as a versatile surface throughout the apartment. A hardware and kitchen countertop and a manual hand crank standing desk would effectively allow this surface to change between dining, desk or countertop height without being bound by wires, which provides the perfect wireless solution for Leela's laptop setup that also offers additional flexibility for things like hobbies or dining. As the floor to ceiling height is quite generous, I decided to add full height curtains to the entire length of the external wall, as these are a great way to emphasize height and make the window feel much larger than it actually is. Similarly, curtains work as a great way to divide space too, so using a matching curtain on a flexible track is a great way to hide the sleeping area, which not only continues the aesthetic, but provides the option of privacy for overnight guests in the living area and helps in breaking up the perceived length of the room when it's not in use. I then went about considering how to design Axel's desk so that it accommodates his hobby of PC gaming while maintaining an aesthetic that's suitable for a living area. I started by replacing his old gaming chair with the same affordable, non-corporate looking swivel chair from IKEA, which I love and currently use myself. And I then placed the necessary computer equipment on the desk, which I managed to find in SketchUp's 3D warehouse. In their email, Axel and Leela mentioned that they were also considering upgrading their antique TV, so I thought that this potentially could be used as an opportunity for Axel to upgrade his monitor, as his desk is placed directly in front of the seating area. There are now a lot of TVs that function as great monitors with high refresh rates and good color accuracy, so this would be ideal for this current layout. However, for the sake of this concept, I just stuck with a 32-inch monitor, which is a little bit more conventional and utilizes a monitor arm that frees up a bit more desk space. Although all the white cabinetry and walls do a great job of bouncing around natural light, I was starting to notice that the model was looking quite sterile, so I went about adding some character by adding a slatted wall to the desk area to match the ventilated screens for the air conditioning unit above. I continued to help the apartment feel a bit more welcoming by adding in a few smaller furniture items too, such as a plant stand to introduce some greenery, a handled tray table, and a poof that doubles as a seat and a footrest, as well as an additional surface for a drinks tray. Then, instead of choosing just another chair with casters, I added a comfortable upholstered side chair for Leela's desk to help stop the apartment from feeling too much like an office. One of the last things to consider was to bring together the material palette by choosing a cohesive range of finishes for the slatted feature wall, desks and upholstery. I then added some final touches like an IKEA table lamp to vary the lighting and some picture ledges installed above Leela's desk for stationery and photographs. I then chose to incorporate some exposed shelving within the storage wall to display treasured items and books and also help to break up the monotony of the cabinet doors. Finally, the last thing to do was to change the light fixture on the ceiling, and with that, I could start positioning my scenes and start the rendering process for the final images. From all the projects I've ever done, for some reason this concept is the one that produced the most blemish-free renders, as the images required hardly any work and V-Ray did an incredible job of creating convincing visualizations. When it came to bringing them into Photoshop, everything I did mainly consisted of just fixing tiny mistakes that I'd made in the model, as well as adding in some context outside of the window. And apart from that, all I did was some basic photo adjustments, which I do to all of my photography anyway. When it comes to seeing this final design, I can't help but be really happy with how it turned out, but in hindsight, I feel like I actually did very little in terms of changing the actual layout of this space. It's quite amazing what consolidating storage to the far side of a room can do, as it still provides all of the utility that a small apartment needs without dominating the space, and it does a great job of hiding the unsightly clutter that every household has. Creating a beautiful space that combines the use of a bedroom, living area and study is no easy task, but it's fascinating how furniture and material choices play a role in how a room's experienced, and considering how the cost of living in many countries only seems to be increasing, implementing techniques like this can go a long way in getting the most out of the space that you already inhabit. The slatted wall and full height curtains do so much for this apartment in providing some warmth and visual interest, whilst also serving a purpose in emphasising the room's height and camouflaging the pipework and the apartment's AC unit. And along with the storage wall and flexible workstations, I think that these features really help to distinguish the apartment as a place that's comfortable not only for work, but also for relaxation and having guests over too. Is this space too small, or do you think that you could live here? I'd love to know what you guys think about getting the most out of small homes like this one down in the comments. And if you're interested in the full process for how I create these designs, you'll be interested to know that you can get the full-length screen recordings over on Nebula for free with a subscription to CuriosityStream, who are kindly sponsoring this video. I make content on Nebula because it's an ad and algorithm-free video platform that's completely separate from the YouTube algorithm, which allows creators like myself to freely post content without worrying about things like view durations or analytics. And as a viewer, you get all of our usual content, plus extended and bonus content as well with no ads. So the Nebula version of this video has this section removed entirely, and there's an additional separate video including the full screen recordings of my process. This is bundled for free with a subscription to CuriosityStream, which in itself is the world's leading documentary streaming platform that has thousands of titles ranging from science to architecture to history, space and nutrition, with series I've enjoyed like Faster on humanity's quest to save time, which talks about the things that we've developed in the modern world to try and get the most out of life and optimize the way that we spend our time. Using the link in the description below, you get 26% off this Nebula and CuriosityStream bundle, which works out to be just $1.26 a month. And when you think about it, it's a bit of a no-brainer, as you end up getting a year's worth of incredible content for the same price as a cheeky Nando's. When you sign up, you immediately get access to Nebula through a link to your email, and when you watch my content over there, it's also a great way to support myself and all of the other creators over on Nebula too, so we can keep making videos like this one. Thanks CuriosityStream for sponsoring this video, and if you enjoyed it, you might also like checking out one of my last redesigns too.